support is appreciated.
Well, we don't know. Maybe
We don't know. I'm trying to lay the groundwork.
They do the short start to come and complain.
maybe they don't like it.
We're live? Oh, let's call the meeting to order then.
You need to adopt the agenda.
You need to adopt the agenda? Well, we got to do roll call first. I think we're all here. All here, roll call done. Adopt the agenda?
I move that we adopt the agenda.
I'll second.
One exception,
Oh.
I would like to make an announcement, but I guess I can do that.
On the agenda from last?
No,
On this.
just under oral communications.
Okay.
Perfect. So I move to adopt the agenda.
Excellent.
I'll second.
Have a second? Okay, and then next is oral communication.
All in favor, say aye.
Oh, all in favor, say aye. Sorry.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
No nays. Okay, and then oral communication.
So I'll go ahead and start with my announcement, which is that there is a really big climate event coming up in San Francisco. It's the Global Climate Action Summit. It looks like Beth is going to say something about that. So I'll just mention it and then. So there are probably 1,000 affiliate events associated with this summit. The actual summit is for policymakers to negotiate. I hope one of you guys or some of you are going to some of the events because there are a lot of them for cities.
Actually have a staff update about that.
Oh, great. Okay. But for the general public, there are a lot of affiliate events. There are probably 1,000 of them so far, and many of them are open to the public. Many of them are free. If you are interested in coming to some of these, and they range from art exhibitions to music performances to much more wonky policy type things, you just Google Global Climate Action Summit and then click on Affiliate Events Calendar, and you will get the whole thing. I have to say the calendar is a little bit clunky to use, but it is possible. So that was all I had to say, just to let people know about that, and maybe Beth would like to add something.
I also have one public service announcement.
Do we want to wait till we're done with this one? Beth, did you have something to add?
I'm thrilled. This is why I came tonight, because I was hoping that the city of Brisbane would be participating as a city. And since it looks like we're already making a lot of the pledges and promises that they require for a city to participate, that we should get on there, get involved. And also, I think that in order to be part of the policy part, you have to be invited, and mostly it would be cities, businesses, and nonprofit organizations. So we would qualify, and I hope that we would have a representative there.
Yeah.
And then if there's any other ways that we might want to participate in affiliate events or whatever, I just came because I'm glad I wanted to bring this to our attention. I figured you knew already, but I wanted to make sure that we were involved.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One other thing about it, the whole thing will kick off with a march called Rise for Climate on Saturday, the 8th of September. That starts, I believe, at the Embarcadero, and the organizers want it to be humongous. So everyone is invited. It should be fun, too. There is a lot of art, street art going on, and I don't know, puppets, who knows. But it should be a big jamboree with a serious purpose.
I'm planning on going. We can carpool if you want.
Okay, that's it. Now, Michelle?
Yeah, so, actually, Mountain Watch on the 10th of September is Ariel's giving a small presentation at that event.
Okay.
Yeah. And on the 9th of September is San Bruno Mountain Watch's pancake breakfast and plant sale at the Mission Blue Nursery.
Busy week.
Huh?
Busy week.
Busy week. 9 to 12 is the pancake breakfast, and the plant sale goes till 2. So please come. all the proceeds go to Mountain Watch.
For anybody who's interested, I usually contribute some gluten-free batter for those with food sensitivities.
Yep.
Okay. Maybe we should ask if there's any more. Lori, anybody else? Do you have any, But you are public comment, so.
You are.
You are. This
You are a
is
member of the
This
public.
is where the agenda allows you to make public comment.
Yeah.
Sorry. So my name is Lori Graham, and I have started a community organization called Friends of Guadalupe Creek. Most people don't know what Guadalupe Creek is because you don't call it that. It's the creek that goes around the Crocker Recreation Trail. And I've started I'm promoting restoration of the creek to full-flowing, attractive, and bird-friendly, and people-friendly, and also to prevent flooding. Excuse me. At the end of March, there was a Pineapple Express that flooded mostly the south side of the trail, and caused a lot of damage to the trail itself. As Michelle pointed out to me, those events are not going to go away. They're probably going to get worse and more frequent. So we need to have the creek become functional in terms of carrying water away from the community. So I've contacted a woman who's in charge of, oh, I lost my piece of paper. I can't remember. Hang on. California Urban Streams Council. And
Wow.
there's a Proposition 3 on the ballot for November, which is for money for waterways and restoration. And if it gets passed, then the money starts flowing in July of 2019 and will be lots and lots of it. So I'm hoping that this will go forward. And
Just a question, do you have a website? Are you going to have regular volunteer work days? Because any information like that, we could include in our minutes, so to be
Okay.
public record.
I started the Facebook page today.
Okay.
Great.
So the first thing I want to do is get some people, liking it, and then I'm going to send it to Ann Riley, and then she's going to, because our organization will be, what's the word I'm looking for?
What's the name of the Facebook?
Supporting.
What's the name of the Facebook page? I was gonna
Oh,
look it up.
Friends of Guadalupe Creek. Because we'll be supporting Prop 3, then she can include us, Urban Creeks Council can include us as their supporters for Prop 3. So
Excellent.
anyway, and I know it's going to take a long time if it even happens, but I think it'll
Good
be
place
good.
to start.
Yeah.
Actually, Lori started quite a while ago
I know.
with extensive garbage pickup along the Guadalupe Trail, Crocker Trail,
Which we should rename.
the Guadalupe Trail, yeah, and also with the removal of invasive broom and along the trail and the creek bed. So quite a lot, actually. She just keeps plugging away at it. It's amazing. So
Well, I'm glad you're reaching out for friends to help.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
yeah, just be forewarned, she can really pull a lot of broom in a day. I'm still crippled.
Yeah. Well, that was her own fault.
I know. We know that. Thank you, Lori.
It's great that you're doing that.
All right. Next is the approval of the minutes. Does anybody have any change? They look good to me, but
I like them very much.
Very nice.
Oh my God!
That was
I
the
move
first.
we approve the minutes.
Second.
do we have a second?
Second.
Yeah.
Aye.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Woohoo! That was a first.
We're moving.
Okay. Now we're doing our presentation for the Climate Action Plan. Our update for 2030.
Just give us one moment here. We're going to switch the display for anybody that might watch online. While Bob is working on that, I want to introduce Betty Cito from DNVGL. She is our consultant through the RICAPS program, assisting us with our greenhouse gas emissions inventories and our climate action update. So I will let her go ahead and take it from here.
Thanks so much, Adrienne. So, good evening, members of the Open Space and Ecology Committee. Very happy to be here this evening. I remember some of you from our last, from the first Climate Action Plan project. So it's, in some ways, it's time to update the plan. I know for some of us it doesn't feel like, that long ago, but there have been some developments, statewide, and there's funding at the moment. So I know that the city wanted to take advantage of the funding that's available since it's, being offered and could possibly sunset by end of the year. And that does inform some of the project schedule, which I will be reviewing with you all as well. So next slide. So in terms of my presentation, I'll just be providing a little bit of background in the regulatory context, what's changed since last time. And then also provide an overview of, what is a climate action plan, what does the process look like for updating the plan, and then tee up the discussion at this point of what should go into the climate action plan update and what have we accomplished since the first climate action plan was adopted, and what new technologies, what new opportunities, especially with developments like the Peninsula Clean Energy. Other things have happened across the county which might require some adjustments to the climate action plan measures that City of Brisbane might prioritize moving forward. So in terms of background, I think most of you know that in 2006, that's when the state adopted its first climate target. That was to achieve 1990 levels by 2020. Slight typo on the slide. And then in 2009, the state also amended its California Environmental Quality Act guidelines to require consideration of greenhouse gas emissions in activities like a general plan update or other, new development, other kind of big projects that are required to comply with CEQA. And then in 2011, the City and County Association of Governments spearheaded a regional climate action planning initiative to support all 20 cities in the county to really take a leadership position and provide resources at scale for local governments and our communities to prioritize and to do some analysis and to really develop roadmaps for emissions reductions. So 2015, City of Brisbane adopts its first climate action plan. Great deal, thanks to the OSEC members at that time. And then the year after that, in 2016, the state adopted its next climate target, which is 40% below 1990 levels by 2030. So Brisbane's current climate action plan only goes out to 2020. And so that's really the big impetus at this time is let's take the funding available from CCAG and update the plan out to the longer time horizon consistent with the state requirements. So the technical assistance that's being offered through the CCAG RICAPS program, RICAPS stands for Regionally Integrated Climate Action Planning Suite. So my time is made available thanks to CCAG. We also provide some templates and some calculation tools, and also this menu of measures for cities and for citizens to pick and to review and to really assess what's applicable to Brisbane today, and what does the community want to see happen here across the city. And so the objective at this time is to support all of the local jurisdictions across the county to develop climate action plans to meet the new state requirements out to 2030. So what are the key components of a climate action plan? I think for some of you that this may be familiar. So there are 5 key components as required by the state. So first, to develop your baseline emissions inventory. So So you can't manage what you don't measure. So there are established protocols for how do you measure the emissions footprint within a city, and that serves as your baseline to, upon which you develop your target, which is the second component. The greenhouse gas reduction target that is consistent with SB 32, given the 2005 baseline, is 49% below 2005 by 2030. And so that's the minimum that we will be seeking to accomplish with this climate action plan update. Of course, cities are welcome to go beyond that. So for example, City of Palo Alto adopted a 80% reduction by 2030 target. So that's probably one of the more aggressive goals out there. And then component number 3, that's really what we're here to discuss today, is what programs and policies and actions do we want to pull together as part of this plan to show, how is Brisbane going to achieve that target? And then associated with those measures, what are the implementation steps? Who's going to be responsible, and how are we going to monitor progress and continue to develop the greenhouse gas inventory updates? And then the last and final component is to adopt the climate action plan in a public process, such as through running it through the OSEC and then adopted by City Council following environmental review. And most environmental reviews for climate action plans are mitigated negative declarations or something, or just a negative declaration, so something that's not too heavy of a lift. I do want to make a note about what is a qualified climate action plan. That is a terminology utilized by the Air Resources Board and by the Air Quality Management District. It's sort of a best practice and in terms of what are the key components of a climate action plan and what should you have in there. And another benefit to that is for some jurisdictions, they have the option of using their qualified cap to streamline CEQA related to greenhouse gas emissions for new projects. But I actually haven't seen that many cities do that. I've seen most cities just use this as a best practice guideline rather than influencing the environmental review process. Okay, sorry, yes.
Betty, can you give some examples of what you would call negative declarations?
So a negative declaration is where you show that the plan doesn't have a significant negative impact on the environment. And they look at several categories. They look at noise, they look at traffic, it looks at, architectural, resources. So what you're saying is this plan does not adversely, it doesn't hit a threshold for being required to do a full environmental impact report, for example. So you're saying that this plan won't have a significant negative, impact on the community. That help? Yeah. Okay. It's based on an initial study, so it is based on an initial high-level study of what the potential impacts might be. And for some large development projects, for sure, there's traffic, there's noise, there's air quality impacts, and so you'll be required to do an environmental impact report. But if you don't hit those thresholds, then you can say, we've looked at this, and we're developing a negative declaration in terms of environmental impact. Okay, next slide. Okay, so what does the baseline inventory look like for Brisbane? Where do your greenhouse gas emissions come from? So in 2005, the baseline inventory was 72,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide.
Pardon me, Betty, was this updated for the origin destination? Okay, thank you.
And so that's a great question. You can see the biggest portion of the pie is on-road transportation. And so the methodology we're using here excludes pass-through miles on the 101 primarily. So there was another methodology we were using previously that included those miles as part of this boundary method, but now we're using an origin destination method, so it excludes anybody, driving from San Francisco to San Jose, for example. And it only includes people who would stop, get off the highway and come to Brisbane. So on-road transportation's big. The other big one is commercial and industrial buildings. So that includes electricity, includes natural gas, and then followed by off-road transportation. So it's like forklifts, lawnmowers, construction equipment, and then residential, and then solid waste are the other portions that comprise the baseline footprint.
Can you just tell us really quickly why solid waste landfill is broken out from solid waste disposal?
I believe you all have an open landfill. It's closed. Okay, so you have a closed landfill, and it still emits methane as part of the...
Okay, so that 6% then is from the closed landfill on the Baylands.
Yeah, that landfill's not actually closed.
Well, you're right.
Legally.
I knew that better. I knew better. Sorry, Michelle.
I just want to make that clear.
Correct. I misspoke, and I appreciate the correction.
Okay, next. So we did update the inventory. So from 2005, here's the 2015 inventory, and it does show a 13% decrease in emissions from 2005. So that's a really great achievement, and it is driven by commercial and industrial, as well as a reduction in emissions associated with on-road transportation since 2005, and then also reductions in the residential building sector as well.
So I didn't notice trains on the previous chart.
Wow, you're very eagle-eyed. Okay, so one thing that happened is that the protocols for doing a city greenhouse gas inventory has evolved since the 2005 inventory was created. And so there are some new categories that the protocol requires cities to include in their emissions footprint. So we went back and forth on this a little bit because we don't have that data for 2005. So we decided to err on the side of being perhaps a little bit more ambitious. So the ramification is that your 2005 baseline might be a little bit lower than it otherwise would be, but we're talking about 49% reduction from 2005. So that is a slightly more aggressive climate target compared to if we were to take the 2015 or 2010 data that we do have and slot it into the 2005, that would make your baseline inventory a little higher. So I think that there's a little bit of flexibility here, depending on what you think is the best message to be sending to the community and to inform the plan. But for at this moment, we're recommending that, the 13% decrease is accounts for these additional categories that are included. So it's showing less of a decrease than it otherwise would have if we had done some proxy estimates for 2005.
So how will the anticipation of having the high-speed rail yard in Brisbane affect that category?
That's a great question. I have not seen the energy consumption estimates for that rail yard. That could, depending on how much electricity that uses, it could be significant. But then again, I'm remembering that PCE has a goal of being 100% greenhouse gas free electricity by 2021. So I think by the time high-speed rail gets here, in theory, PCE will have carbon-free electricity. But I guess the other question is high-speed rail going to buy electricity from PCE?
And I noticed the water and wastewater category is new.
Yes, that's right.
Do you want to talk about that as well?
Yeah, that's another category where we started collecting information that wasn't previously collected in 2005.
Is that just processing it or what?
There are some direct emissions from from processing, and then there's also natural gas combustion related to some of the heating processes.
So is the trains category, is that origin destination as well?
So the trains is, I believe that uses in boundary where the miles of track that are in Brisbane, we take the proportion of the energy used within the section within Brisbane.
Okay, so not necessarily anything that stops at Bayshore Station.
I don't think we're using passenger disembarkment and ridership. Yeah.
How do we get the high-speed rail to use the PCE? I
Put it
thought
in your
I'd ask.
climate action plan. I think that jurisdictions have, I mean, the fact that they're citing it here needs to be permitted, it has to go through the public process. So that I think is something that the community could stand up for as part of the public engagement process and really say, if you want to build this here, this is what we want.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, they have promised to include renewable energy in their plan. We just have to make sure that they keep that promise.
So here's a bar chart that shows the 2005 categories compared with 2015. So if you hit down again one time, and again, you can see these are the primary sectors. I think you have one more, or two more.
Oops. Back.
There we
Those
go.
are the primary reductions. So the reductions related to on-road transportation you might find surprising. So that's driven by two factors. So I believe there's a slight decrease in vehicle miles traveled, but really the biggest difference is that vehicles have become quite a bit more efficient. And so that's where you see the CAFE standards really making a difference. So hopefully California gets to maintain its special status on that front. But those are the types of things that really drive, emissions, is the fuel efficiency of the vehicles. And then, as I mentioned before, commercial and industrial, I believe there was a large entity that leaving, so that might have attributed to that reduction, and then off-road and then residential. Those have significant reductions. I don't know if we have a great explanation for those at this time. I can say that residential, I do feel like the building stock is getting more efficient. So programs like home upgrade or, the new construction, new building codes, whenever anybody remodels or whenever somebody buys a new fridge, those things all are more efficient than the old stuff that they're replacing.
So are you saying the 20% drop in commercial industrial is really from the exodus of probably VWR? Would that affect that much?
I mean, we were looking for whether there was any big
Chunk.
events that happened in that time period, and so we
That was a big
we
event.
didn't mind the data.
Yeah.
That also includes the recession and the financial crisis, so that could have had something to do with it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had some vacancy rates in Crocker Industrial Park during that period as well.
Okay, next slide. So this slide, I'm going to break it down for you here. So let's start on the left, 2005. So the 72,000 metric tons is your baseline inventory, and then the 62,000 is what we've accomplished, between 2005 and 2015. So you can see we've been on a solid downward trajectory. And then the blue dotted line represents if we were just to do nothing, we would anticipate that the emissions would go back up through, increase in economic activity or, population. But luckily we have some other factors working in our favor. So the purple line represents projections with state measures. So the state is doing a lot.
BAU? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Business as usual.
Thank you.
Yeah, and let me know if I use any other
Acronyms.
acronyms.
PEC stands for,
Peninsula Clean Energy.
Clean energy.
Yeah.
See.
just want to make sure because there are people listening and
Mm-hmm.
we should be careful of that.
Okay, thank
Business as
you.
usual.
So the state's doing a lot. We mentioned the state fuel efficiency standards, the low carbon fuel standard. They have the renewable energy portfolio standard, which we do include under state measures. You know, they have new targets for electric vehicles, zero net energy buildings. You know, all of those state regulations and goals, we've incorporated ones that we thought, you know, legitimately or have a likelihood of really making an impact. And then in addition to the statewide activity, we also account for Peninsula Clean Energy. That's the dotted orange or beige line. And that has a funny line because it shows a pretty steep reduction in the first, you know, when it's first launched, I think 2016, 2017. And then it kind of flattens out a little bit. But a big chunk of your 2030 emissions, we do anticipate to anticipate Peninsula Clean Energy's cleaner electricity supply to help Brisbane get a lot closer to that 36,000 metric tons target for 2030. And we calculate the 36,000 as a 49% below 72,000, which is the baseline inventory. So when we think about the climate action plan, it's really that amount between the 44 and the 36. So that's about 8,000 that we're really going to be looking to the climate action plan measures. And what is the city government going to do? What can the community do? Who can we mobilize? You know, to support reductions in driving, reductions in energy usage, reductions in waste, you know, reductions in wastewater, you know, all of those environmental kind of initiatives that come together and form your climate action plan.
One of the things, though, that is a concern is that, yes, it looks like it's not a big gap there, but then over here you have this other line that is new development.
Yes.
And which is, you know, going on at incredible pace.
Right.
And build-outs of, you know, Sierra Point and infill build-outs in Brisbane, new projects, et cetera, which are going to naturally increase everything.
Yes.
And so we have to take measures to counteract that to come back down to this
Yes,
number.
that's right.
And so the 8,000 or whatever seems like, oh, we can do that. Well, no, in our current environment, that's going to be really hard, isn't it?
So the blue line is meant to, so blue dotted line of business as usual is meant to capture some of that growth that's occurring. And then, you know, but the state's doing things to make the energy consumption within the new development, you know, smaller. So that we do give some credit to the state measures and to the Peninsula Clean Energy. But, you know, these are estimates. I mean, they're certainly, you know, there's no way to know for sure, you know, what's going to happen. But this time, this is our best estimate. And perhaps one thing we could do is, you know, encourage the community to look for ways to be more aggressive to counteract that growth. And one thing I do want to make sure is clear is that this forecast does not include the Baylands project. And so climate action plans are meant to be updated every 3 to 4 to, you know, every several years. So as conditions change in that front, you know, we would certainly be looking at another climate action plan update.
Does it include the current build-out of Sierra Point? So there's 2 buildings being built right now. There's another one on the docket.
Yes. So the business as usual numbers that we provided to Betty for the forecast from our planning department include all of the growth, all of the infill growth that is forecast. So everything essentially except for the Baylands would be included in that business as usual.
Okay.
Can I-
And would it, oh, yeah, okay.
We had talked a little bit with Betty and among staff about, and with the Climate Action Plan Subcommittee, about a per capita method too. If we did have significant growth in population or commercial, that you can measure per capita, because you have all this growth, you can't necessarily reduce 50% while you're having huge growth. But we also did in that discussion talk about the fact that the per capita on new development is likely lower than, or on new residences or businesses is likely lower than what's the existing housing stock and uses.
Sure.
Because it's all built more efficiently.
Yeah, but using per capita is just a numbers game in terms of what's really happening on the planet with global warming. So doing per capita is not a good end game, I don't think.
Yeah, and we're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's represented here is an absolute reduction.
Yeah, that's what we should be looking at.
Okay, next slide. So, we want to take a moment and celebrate our achievements and celebrate what the previous climate action plan or the existing climate action plan has helped to, support. And, the climate action plan, the benefit of having a climate action plan is that it supports the city in being a little bit more strategic in terms of the environmental initiatives, and also supports the city in going after grant funding, including the Bay Area Air Quality Management District grant that they received, and they could point to, we have a climate action plan, this is part of our strategy, and we need this funding to implement our climate action plan. So here are some of the accomplishments recently, including the new REACH code. As Karen mentioned, new construction has a lower energy footprint. One way of doing this is requiring, cool roof or solar or other technologies to significantly reduce the energy usage of new buildings, shuttle service to the Caltrain station and BART, providing financing opportunities to the community. We hear, first cost, upfront cost is a huge barrier. So what are some innovative approaches like property assessed clean energy that allows people to make an investment in their home and then feel okay if they're going to move or if they sell it, that they've made an investment in this house that carries on to the new owner. And then EV fast charging talked about the importance of on-road transportation as being a huge part of the city's footprint. So what can we do that's realistic, make it a little bit easier to have zero emission vehicles. And then finally, the city's leading by example in their own operations. So they've opted up for all of their city facilities. So 100% of their electricity is carbon free. And that's another strategy that some cities like Burlingame is trying to figure out, how do we get more residents and businesses to also opt up to Eco 100. And of course, the solar PV system, and then recent energy audits and upgrades to continue to show that there's a return on investment in energy efficiency. And that, yeah.
So when we moved forward with the Energy Conservation Generation Ordinance in 2017, we chose to move forward with that because it was shown to be cost effective for new property owners. And I was just wondering if you could speak a little bit to what it takes to get those kinds of, like how those calculations are done or something, because I think we've had some concern in the public that we were, overreaching or, burdening. And I just was wondering if you could say some words about that, because I think that we really felt that we went forward with it because the evidence was contrary, that it was going to pay for itself. And I was just wondering if you could say a few words about that as an expert.
Absolutely. So there are two steps to cost effectiveness. So our task at hand tonight will be to discuss, a relatively long list of potential new climate action plan measures. So the methodology that we use is to work with, stakeholders like yourself and work with the city to figure out, of this 40 to 50 measures, what should me as a technical consultant help you prioritize using a cost-benefit methodology. So we would estimate, what are the costs, what are the benefits, and then we would, of course, prioritize those with the highest benefits and lowest cost first. And we have a scoring methodology, so we score the different measures and we say, okay, here's your top 15. It gets you 100%. It gets you that 8,000 metric tons reduction that you need. Or if you don't want to do this line, then what about these other measures? So that's the cost benefit that goes into the climate action plan development. And then that specific ordinance, the state requires another cost-effectiveness study. And so in order to pass that specific type of new ordinance for a new building, the state has another layer of scrutiny on behalf of public, interest.
Yes, so this is all very well vetted before it goes forward.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Did staff hear we lost one of our shuttles? C.
Down for a couple weeks, right?
Down, something's down. Anyway, I don't want to sidetrack us. I just bring it back. We'll bring it back.
All right, so as I mentioned, we do have a menu of measures. So we have this handout, which has the current menu of measures, which I believe the CAP subcommittee went through in quite a bit of detail. And in addition to this menu of measures, we are seeking some additional funding from Peninsula Clean Energy to include some additional measures related to electrification, related to microgrids, and other measures that we don't have in this handout. So that's this bottom list here, the highest ranked new CAP measures, which the Climate Action Plan Subcommittee spent some time reviewing a larger list. So we're kind of bringing forward some new ideas in addition to what's in the menu of measures. We're bringing that forward to the OSAC here for discussion. And then I've asked Adrian and Karen to tell me, I think by end of the month, what measures do you want to move forward with for the quantification process or the cost benefit process? And that doesn't, your selection of this set of measures doesn't commit you to including these measures in your climate plan. It's just the set that we can't do the analysis for all, like 50. So we want to move forward with a subset of high interest options, and then we'll crunch the numbers and then come back and say we recommend, based on the cost benefit, that we include this number. Yes.
I have a couple questions I'd like to ask. One right now, and that is, from working with other communities, have you found particular measures that sort of repeatedly came up really well on the cost benefit scale? And could you let us at some point know which ones those are, so that we can kind of maybe scrutinize those a little bit further and see if they work for us?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
I will say, most of the measures that are energy efficiency that result in a resource savings do score the highest. And so that's something to keep in mind.
The negawatt.
Right, exactly, the negawatt. Okay, so I guess go back a slide. So here's the handout. And I don't know, Adrian, if you want to say a few words about the process. Okay.
So, kind of to give you a little bit of a lay of the land of what you have in front of you, like Betty said, this is the existing list of measures. Probably if you were involved in this process a few years ago for our first CAP update, a lot of them will look very familiar. And so what we did at staff level and with the CAP subcommittee was really kind of go through them and look at what are the existing initiatives that we already have. And you can see kind of some of those comments in that column. And for the most part, if it was an existing initiative that we've been moving forward with, it's probably something that we would continue with if it's, something that needs to be an ongoing or isn't going to be relevant anymore if it was a one-time and we're done kind of thing. So we went through that process. Karen and I talked with a few other staff members on a few items that were relevant, water engineer when we had on the water measures and things of that sort. And then we went through this. I think it took 2, maybe 3 meetings for our CAP subcommittee, and we, I would say did a pretty fast work considering the sizable list, and had brief discussions on most of the items. And so you can see kind of the initial pulse of the staff and the CAP subcommittee in that last proposed for CAP column. There were a few items that are highlighted, a few rows, and those are ones that when we had the subcommittee meetings, we were kind of on the fence about, we felt there wasn't enough information. So that's actually where I would turn it back to Betty to maybe talk through a little bit more of that. And we wanted to get more opinions from the rest of the committee. And then I think if there is something that, anything that the committee sees that they, don't agree with what the current recommendation is, we'd certainly want to know that. And if there are other ideas out there from the committee or from the public, we have that opportunity to think about those as well. So those are all open for us. Karen, anything you want to add?
And the rest of the committee members that are not on the CAP subcommittee don't feel like this is your last chance to tell us. You can email us your comments, and we're trying to finalize, like Betty said, our first cut at menu of measures by the
End of next
24th
week.
of this month. Yeah, so
End of the month, did you say?
End of next week, actually,
well, okay.
basically.
All right.
One other thing to note is that there is the measure name, and then there's also a detailed description.
Yep.
But the detailed description is not set in stone. It's just meant to give folks a better understanding of what that measure's intent is, and there's quite a bit of flexibility in terms of what the city, actually puts in its climate action plan, associated with these different concepts.
Yeah, I have been reading the CAP map just to try and get more ideas. Because having participated in this process before, I find that this framework is really great, but we've also been charged by our city council to come up with innovative ideas. Unfortunately, it seems like every time or frequently when people have innovative ideas, there's like a certain amount of like cultural reluctance to do that weird thing. So we're always trying to so that's why I've been like going into the CAP map and just reading it longhand, trying to find good ideas. I'm wondering where does RICAPS kind of pull in stuff from? Do they have a master list, or what's their process like?
Right. So in developing the menu of measures, we did do a pretty comprehensive scan of guidance from the Air District, and then a scan of leading cities, not just in the Bay Area, not just in the U.S., as a matter of fact, and we looked internationally at some of the leading cities worldwide. But I will say that, we did that analysis several years ago, and so the time is ripe to be talking about, like, what else, and that's what this additional set of, bullets is meant to capture. And that's actually not even the full list of new CAP measures that the CAP subcommittee reviewed. The CAP subcommittee ranked each, we'd come up with a list and had ranked everything like high, medium, or low, in terms of interest, and I just pulled up, I think, like half or even be a third.
These all high.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, these are all high, right?
Yeah, these are all the high ones. Yeah. No, I really thought there were more, but I think there might be a couple more. Yeah.
Great, and then I also had some other questions. I wanted to talk to you at length about what goes into the residential calculation. I think probably not during this meeting, but just in general, because kind of residential carbon footprint is sort of my personal area that I've tried to delve a little deeper into, and I'd like to know how I can be most effective, if that works into your time. I don't know if that works into what I'm allowed to tease out of you, but if it does, I'd like to, maybe send Adrienne an email to send to you. And then you also mentioned that Palo Alto has targeted an 80% reduction. Is that just an aspirational goal, or do they have a CAP map or CAP plan for getting there?
Right. It is aspirational at this time.
Okay.
They have a CAP framework with
Okay.
strategies and actions, but it's not a formal climate action plan at this time. They've elected a method where they set the aspirational goal, and then they've asked city departments to come up with, the 2 to 3 year implementation plan that heads them in that direction, consistent with the CAP framework.
Okay. And then you had also mentioned using the CAP as part of a streamlining the planning process. I'm not sure you got your exact words there.
So a CAP can be used to streamline environmental review of other development projects. So that's a mechanism that some cities, I haven't seen it used a lot, to be honest.
Yeah. I think it's always interesting to think about how are we going to get more teeth, in terms of environmental requirements in the planning process. And sometimes, in order to get something, you got to give something. There's got to be a carrot there. And so I'd be interested to hear more about that at some point.
Okay. Yeah, I have seen some jurisdictions use climate action plan consistency checklist for new development. So you have something that a new development has to say, yes, we're meeting this REACH code, we're meeting this solid waste initiative, we're providing X, Y, and Z that's consistent with the climate action plan. So that is one way that you can really operationalize the climate action plan and make sure that new development and new projects coming through the city comply.
We also did a whole sustainability framework that was supposed to apply to new development, and it is it's not a code, but it very definitely is a REACH. And so that could be, a set of conditions that the developer has to comply with before permits are granted and so forth. So we've already done some work on that.
Yeah, I think
available on the
maybe we
website.
should actually tie it into the next CAP.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something to look for us to keep in mind when we write the implementation chapter of the CAP, when we talk about who's doing what and how do we operationalize the CAP, including things like the checklist. We're going to create this, we're going to create this kind of, campaign to get the word out, and those types of things can be very helpful.
I think those were my questions. Now that I've completely monopolized your time.
What is the Cool Block programs? And I should maybe know that, but
Heart Block's really cool. We had a party last year.
it used to be cool. It got canceled this year.
Do you want to?
So a Cool Block program is a neighborhood engagement program. So it's kind of get with your neighbor and talk about what commitments are you going to take to, use your car less or, generate less solid waste. And so it's really meant to be a kind of a grassroots kind of neighborhood driven.
Put the pressure on the neighbors. Gotcha.
Yeah. Right. I don't know.
Guilt, no, I don't mean that.
No, I think you explained it really well. I mean, it's really the kind of psychology philosophy that if you have people who are holding you accountable to some goal, you're more likely to actually follow through. So it's really meant to, help people to learn about what actions they can take, make pledges to take them, hold each other accountable for taking those next steps, and has been shown to improve community resiliency and a lot of different benefits. So I wanted to make sure that we had that one on this list because a program like that would really rely on all of you for it to be successful. It would need to be something that was really driven by community members and that you were all behind. So that would be something that we would, staff would recommend. OSEC is really behind that one if we're going to include it.
Right. Might be something good for the park too, Day in the Park.
One thing I don't see on here under your new measures is anything about district heating, especially for new developments, and I was kind of curious about that. Did you look into that at all?
I have not had the opportunity to look into it yet. I can tell you that those suggestions that the subcommittee made were included in the suggestions when we returned our survey. So that is out there to be evaluated, but we have not gotten to that yet.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so
Talk about the highlighted ones
yeah, why
next?
don't we go through some of the highlighted rows here for some discussion and perhaps guidance from the full OSEC. So on page 2 of 7, we have the first one related to funding for energy efficiency and renewable energy. So revolving loan funds are another strategy that some cities have looked into. So how do you make financing available to folks to overcome that first cost barrier to energy upgrades or to investing in solar photovoltaic? I think the closest example is probably City of Pleasanton. They had put aside, I think, $250,000 from their general fund and made that available to the community. And then as the community paid back the loan to the loan fund, it's called revolving because then the money goes back out to other projects. And so it's meant to be, kind of a revenue neutral type funding mechanism.
Does San Mateo County have that going on right now also?
Not that I'm aware of. This one might be. This one hasn't had a big uptake. I think there are some kind of considerations related to does the city want to take on being, a financing, organization. There are some other opportunities like on-bill financing through PG&E, for example. That might be another option, but that's a very limited set of measures that PG&E will allow you to finance through on-bill financing. There is also PACE financing, which I thought was...
Yeah, the PACE interest rates are kind of high, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't remember what they were. But
One question I had about this, and you're probably going to remember me asking similar questions the last time you were here.
Of course.
Brisbane is a very small city, as you know, and this would be an ideal thing. A revolving fund would be an ideal thing for the county to take on. And I just wonder, could that get passed on to the county powers that be? Is it being discussed at a county level? I mean, as we can see in this whole process, and the Climate Action Plan Subcommittee has run into this a lot of times, and you could even see it on the charts. A lot of our emissions are out of our control, and some of the things that we could do about them are not under our control either. But there are places where you think, oh, well, one level up could do that, and this is one of them.
So I know that the county has led on the property assessed clean energy, the PACE financing. I have not seen much of an appetite at the county level to provide a revolving loan fund. But, this might be an interesting, we could compile our wish list to the county and then submit it up, and do something formal, because we've talked about it several times. And when I meet with the county, I do say, well, the cities are looking for leadership from the county. We like to hold up the plastic bag ban as a shining example of county leadership. And they kind of nod their heads and
And that's it.
Can I ask a question? Oh, go ahead, Mary.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, do you have an average cost to upgrade a home with solar, and what's the average payback? I mean, that you have to pay back every month.
Okay, I don't have that number.
Just off the top of your head, like $10,000, $20,000?
I feel like, actually, I got an assessment. Did you get an assessment
For solar?
Yeah.
I signed an agreement.
Oh, okay. Adrian has
So speak up, Adrian.
It really, really varies so much by how big your home is, what your energy use, and how much of a system you want to put on. So I'll just lay out a few kind of broad numbers on what we decided to move forward with at my house. We have a pretty low energy use right now. We have a very old fossil fuel heater that we want to upgrade at some point in time to an electric heat pump. We anticipate having an electric vehicle in the near future, so we know that we want to oversize our system from the get-go. So we are basically saying, cover our entire west-facing roof with as many panels as you can fit. It's 285 or something like that % of our current energy use, but we anticipate that there's a good chance with all of those other things we hope to do in the future that we will get there. So the system costs, my husband might shoot me for telling you all of this publicly.
Online.
But the system is going to cost us to finance about $240 a month. So it's, fairly reasonable for us at this point in time to consider. And, we expect that we're going to have essentially no utility bill.
But what was the total amount
so.
that you were looking at? Is it,
I'm not sure I'm comfortable saying that
Okay.
on camera. If you'd
Okay.
like to
Yeah, I will.
talk
later.
after the fact,
I'm
I
just
might be a
trying to
little
think
bit more
like,
open about
if
that.
we had the
but-
$250,000 revolving loan fund, how many people could we help at a one time? That's what I'm looking
Yeah,
for.
okay.
Just one interjection here. It's really hard to estimate, partly because really there are things that should be done before solar panels get slapped on a house. Efficiency measures should be taken first. So if you've got an antique refrigerator, there's no point in putting solar on your house to run the fridge. You want to get a new fridge. So it's
Yes.
very individualistic. That's why it's hard to make any statement about what the average cost would be, or that's another reason it's hard to make those statements.
Yeah.
Right. The floor function, we were looking at solar for our house as well. Now that the neighbors and I cut all the trees that were in the way of our roofs, they could potentially block it. We haven't done anything yet. The floor function seems to be around 20 grand. Like, we didn't really look into anything that would have been lower than that. That would have covered a decent amount of our use. And that doesn't include any energy stores. That's just solar panels, grid tie.
20 to 30.
Use on sunny days.
Yeah. So 20 to 30 is
20 to
sort
30
of
is-
been.
No, that
that's
usually
for
is
solar.
your net. Total net is usually what they calculate it to cover.
Mhm.
Your annual net.
But that 20 to 30, I don't think would cover electric heat. It would cover things like refrigerator, television, appliances in the house. But heating, at least my heating, and I think most people's heating, is usually natural gas. And if you want to substitute for that, you have to do what Adrian was talking about, and then put additional solar
Air sourced,
on
Adrian?
Hmm?
Air sourced heat pump? Or
Don't know yet.
Okay. Just curious.
Yeah, so it's really hard to estimate.
Grounds.
But the county could do more than we could, and that was my point. It'd be nice to have $1 million revolving fund instead of a $250,000 one, or I don't know if Brisbane could even come up with that much, but something substantial at low interest rates so people could actually do it.
It sounds like you'd help maybe 6 to 10 people at a time.
That would be
Annually.
huge,
Oh, I was thinking 250, but yeah. But I mean, it would definitely help. I mean, there's probably some houses that would be able to take advantage of it with the roof coverage.
Yeah, I mean, with the rate of uptake. Why it sounds like my mic is off? Does it sound? It's on? Okay.
You actually sound louder than anybody else.
I'm so used to the feedback, echoey sound.
You just normally sound like that.
So I've totally lost my train of thought. Go ahead, Ross.
That was the plan.
So maybe, I think we've talked about this.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about how long the payback is for Pleasant? Any of the details of their program? If you don't, we should move on.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So one thing to know, so just want to see the discussion here around financing, and are there kind of innovative ways that we might, get more folks to do PACE, even though the interest rate's a little high. There's also crowdfunding. Maybe talk to our banker neighbors and just figure out, how can we help more people to, pay a monthly rate instead of having to figure out how to cough up $20,000.
Has anyone, you guys will probably shoot me, but property tax assessment to establish a pool of funds to help with this type of project? So,
Never happened.
No.
I don't know.
Well, I don't know if that would ever
That wouldn't
get
be
on the
popular.
ballot.
Well, I mean, it's,
That is.
But I thought there was already a mechanism by which you could add the cost for your own system to your property tax.
That's PACE.
There we go. PACE. Sorry, we just mentioned that. That's what I was thinking. So there's already a system for that for individuals.
Yeah, PACE is, I just Googled it because I wanted to check my memory, and it says the rates are usually 6.5 to 8.5%, which is a little on the steep side.
Yeah, it might be better just to finance individually.
Yeah. So that's, I think, why we haven't had a huge amount of uptake on PACE.
That is, Mary's idea is innovative, though.
yeah, I mean, it's something to
Which-
consider.
Would you be willing, Betty, to talk to other people? I mean, since you're in RICAPS, you talk to other people from other cities all the time and see if there's interest from other cities. And if there is, maybe consider taking a proposal to the county?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead and answer that.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. We do have a monthly meeting for all cities across the county. So we could bring that up as a, are there other, like what is the kind of groundswell here? Can we get more cities to pressure the county to look into something like that? Yeah.
So, the city of Brisbane, what's the equivalent of PERS, the retirement? It's not PERS.
CalPERS
uses.
It is PERS, CalPERS.
Brisbane retirements are invested there.
Is there a way that we could, if we got a small percentage back on this program, we could incorporate it into like a PERS type program where we're setting aside money and then we're getting interest in and then it's going back in that fund?
It all goes to the state and the state manages it.
Okay. Could we manage a chunk of it or get no?
CalPERS is pretty centrally managed.
Okay. Always a thought of a way that we could kill two birds with one stone, If we could help our community and get a little interest, we could, put that towards some of our unfunded retirement liabilities, but that was probably too big of an ask.
Very outside the box, yeah.
Okay, so the next page, on page 3, there are a couple more yellow highlighted ones for discussion. Solar hot water is another one that's on the list here. So I believe the state of Hawaii actually requires all new construction to utilize solar thermal.
Makes a lot of sense.
So there's an opportunity here to promote in addition to solar PV, solar thermal, which really gets at that natural gas consumption in a gas water heater.
And it's solar, so how does that work?
So it runs either the water, it runs something on the roof that it's a thermal, so it absorbs the heat, and then it actually preheats the water in the water heater. So that's how that works.
So smart. I just brought that up like the last meeting. It drives me crazy because I don't know where I was, but the water came out hot. And I was like, yes.
Does anybody, or do you know if the cost benefit has been done on those?
I'm not sure about the solar thermal.
I think that was our big question because I looked into it for our house and our consumption wasn't high enough to make it pencil out, but we put the pipes in the wall anyway, just in case we ever wanted, in case like things changed. It's a lot easier to stick the pipes in the wall when you've got the wall open.
How much did that run?
Oh, I don't remember because we did it as part of our solar. We just had them that Luminault was able to both provide our solar installation and they do solar hot water as well, so we just had them stick pipes in the wall. I don't remember even what it cost. It wasn't very much as part of our bill, but we were kind of concerned, I think as a group, because it didn't pencil out for me. How many people does it pencil out for? And so we got really, went down the rabbit hole on the cost benefit analysis, because I generally think being ready for anything is the best plan, but it's gotta pencil out. So,
yeah, one thing to note is, I actually don't see it on the list of the new measures, but a lot of cities want to move people away from their natural gas water heaters. So instead of solar thermal, we could consider something that encourages people to swap out their natural gas water heater with an electric heat pump water heater and take advantage of that clean peninsula, clean energy.
check.
Well, you're ahead of the curve. But that's those are fairly low cost items. That's probably in the $1,000 to $1,500 range for heat pump water heater.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, so that's fairly affordable compared to trying to drive people to put in a solar installation or solar thermal water heating.
Yeah.
Well, it's the electricity, but if you don't have solar, it's painful.
Yeah, we're still looking at solar simply because our electric bill is with the cars is over $300 a month pretty consistently, and that's with me running around chasing everyone and turning off lights.
This might be a good time to mention that SunShares is open right now. Peninsula SunShares program. If you're interested in going solar or an electric vehicle, you should definitely check that out.
Bay Area Sunshare? Oh, Peninsula Sunshare. There we go.
No, it actually is Bay Area
Oh,
Sunshares.
sorry. Okay, there's
I'm hearkening back to the Peninsula Sunshares program that preceded Bay Area 4 or so years ago.
So it's 2014, Adrian.
making a note. Making a note.
So both of the things we talked about so far are residential, which seem kind of like a small percentage of the pie chart. I'm curious if, like, of the 8,000 that we want to reduce it by, what's our goal? What's the goal for, like, what percentage comes from what part of the pie chart? Is residential just easier to influence, and so maybe easier to focus on?
I think we're mostly just talking about the highlighted measures. I think the biggest thing that the subcommittee has worked on is a commercial.
Okay, so
Or
most of
because
it's going to come
that's-
from, but that's just a
that's a
given, so
big
it's
chunk,
kind of, we're
yeah.
not talking about it. Gotcha.
Yeah, and I think we see that on page 2, EC10, Commercial Energy Conservation Program. So,
Yes,
yeah.
and it's yes.
So we should be looking at 28, not 8,000 metric tons, but 28,000 metric tons, because we need to make up for the amount that we're going to get with growth.
I just double checked. There's a $300 PG&E rebate for heat pump water heaters and another $300 federal tax credit. So there's just $600 in rebates right now for heat pump water heaters, which is, I think, about what we got.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot more that the city or that we all can do to help people understand, what is a heat pump water heater, and it is a new technology. Well, it's new for Americans. So we all love our natural gas storage tanked water heaters. So there is a little bit of a market transformation, and even the contractors who work locally, if all they know is a natural gas water heater, and all of a sudden they need to figure out, work with an electrician, for example, there are some new barriers that electric water heaters present.
Here's another.
Right? You're talking about a tankless water heater.
No.
No.
It's tanked. It's tanked.
It's a tank.
It's just instead of it looks like a traditional electric hot water heater with an air conditioning compressor strapped at the top of it.
Yeah, it basically has a unit on the top of it that works like your refrigerator in reverse. So instead of taking all the heat out of the box so that you have a cold refrigerator, it takes all the heat into the box so you have hot water.
And then there's an electric heating coil backup in
Yeah.
case it's not warm enough.
Connected to.
Here's another ask for the county. And that is there any chance to get all the things like the rebates that Barbara just mentioned, and a list of contractors and all that, all in one place that's available to everybody? So you could just make it searchable. So you could say, my water heater just broke. Look up water heater. Right, it's right there. These are the rebates that you can get. These are the types of water heater that you can get. I think one of the problems that people are having is that you really have to be pretty wonky in a lot of cases to go after this stuff. And some sort of big web portal, which I think is beyond the capacity of most individual cities, would be a really big help.
Actually, the Air District grant that we received, while the bulk of it is focused on commercial, there is a portion to create a web portal with resources. And the intention of that was to include residential resources. So we will not be making any requirements of residential, but we would be providing them information comprehensively about what is available for Brisbane residents.
Oh, great.
And from all of these other existing programs. That is part of the grant as it was written.
Excellent. I didn't know that.
That's good.
Yes. Of course, that's probably still a year plus, maybe 2 away, but it's in there.
Adrian's a sexy wonk.
Yes, she's
And that's been recorded.
I know.
has been recorded.
Oh my God.
Everybody knows.
Everybody knows.
So, okay, well, let's keep moving along here. So the other one is around a municipal green building policy. So the next two are around, municipal operations. Let's see, is there more that we can do related to our city facilities, mandating, LEED? The green building ordinance currently requires LEED silver. Do we want to require, percent above code? Yeah, like a tier 1 requirement for new facilities. I guess this is another, are you guys building a new building?
The library.
No. Okay.
No.
That's not a
So-
municipal building.
But tier 1 is, that was the question, is that's a reach above what we're Title
Yeah,
24
tier
and
1
six
is a reach
tier
above Title 24. Yeah. Okay, so maybe we should skip, okay. And then, is there more that we can do around renewable energy installations? City's already done a lot on City Hall, solar thermal at the pool. We're starting to discuss a zero net energy assessment for all of municipal buildings. So that is moving. Like that study, the initial study is likely to move forward.
Great.
Okay. Maybe there's not a lot to talk about there.
No, I don't.
Okay. So page 5.
Should we be thinking about doing that what kind of hot water heaters does the pool have? The pool facility.
I'm
In
looking
our
at that.
last CAP meeting, the solar thermal did not pan out very well. The sun just gets around to those panels a little late, and by that time, the boilers have already fired.
You mean for the heating the pool water?
Yeah,
Right.
for heating the pool water.
But heat
So
pump with solar electric.
we were talking about part of the thing in the evaluation. Maybe they could look at heat pump, either air sourced or ground loop technology.
I was thinking more also of the hot water that's used for the showers.
It could come out of the same boiler,
Yeah.
the same system. Wouldn't be a boiler anymore. I misspoke there. So we'll see. We'll see what the assessment says. That would be like.
When
Yeah,
are we
we're-
getting that?
We're looking at that and had a contractor kind of scratching their head and coming up with some numbers, because it is also in our facility assessment, the boiler is due to be replaced.
Yeah.
So we want to get the study done, but we're told anecdotally that a heat pump doesn't work on something so big in a cold environment. Works great when it's warm, but there's no heat to draw.
Yeah.
in
No,
the
there's
winter.
there's definitely a low end cutoff. Most of those systems will revert to using electric resistance heating, which I suppose if your energy source is clean would be great. It will still be far more expensive than natural gas. It would cost-
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the air source usually cuts off about 50 degrees. We don't get below 50 too often here.
Not during the day, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So or even at night, not too much of the year do we get below 50, but it might take a ground loop. I don't know. That's way beyond my technical.
Yeah, so
the-
it's going to be studied.
It needs a study.
Yeah.
I can throw things out there, but it needs a study.
Yeah.
I don't know that much.
I mean, when's the deadline for getting the boiler replaced?
No, I mean, I think we have options. It's supposed to be in this year's cycle, but
Okay, so it can limp along for a little bit more. Just build a campfire.
Along with thinking outside the box, if we offered to remove 2 eucalyptus trees on school property that shade the solar panels until about noon, that might really increase the efficiency.
Or we can burn them for warmth.
yeah, there are a lot of things to think about.
Yeah.
We have not gotten the return we expected on those solar thermal panels,
Yeah.
and we hear that they work better in hotter environments.
Well, if
Definitely.
and they're not the vacuum. I don't think they're the vacuum sealed ones, right? They're not the glass sealed ones. They're the black plastic ones. I
And
seem to remember.
No, they're under glass. I don't know
Yeah.
if they're vacuum.
Well, but it's glass with a black substrate, or it's the collector with the glass tube in the middle. Because the vacuum insulated ones will work a lot better in climates like ours, but they're also very expensive.
Yeah.
so probably not.
Yeah, they probably aren't that kind.
And then they are 12 years old at this point, so
And they're not clean.
huh?
They're not.
They're not clean.
Okay,
Not clean.
They're not clean.
the
They're-
trifecta.
They need maintenance. You know, maybe I don't know if you guys have
Maybe
seen
we can just walk down
glycol.
there and
Sometimes
get
the
it.
food grade glycol leaks.
I don't know if I could.
Um,
I might need a ladder.
so we're trying to look at the whole.
I've got a ladder. We can throw it in the truck. We can go down there. I mean, how much trouble would we get if we just wandered around the roof looking at the panels?
You probably have to ask.
They're not on
Are
the
you
roof.
at the pool?
They're
or
on
are
the
you at
side.
City
Oh,
Hall?
they're on the side. That's right.
Yeah, they're not on the roof of the building.
Oh, perfect. Let's go take a look.
Just give me a boost up.
We have to be in the middle of the night. We have to be wearing all black, though.
Good thing you're halfway there.
Dun, 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 dun.
You two already.
They're probably the wrong collectors.
Okay, so I think in the climate action plan, there's clearly more that we can do on the city operations side, and we probably want to say, something to the effect of, city leading by example and showing, in its own operations and facilities what can be done. And I think along those lines, on page 5, we have another yellow highlighted one related to the city fleet vehicles. How does this differ? Oh, okay. So there might be something here between TM1 and TM4. Those do seem to be a little redundant. So I don't know if Karen wants to speak about how the city currently manages its fleet, or it does have a yes. Yes, we want to look at electric vehicles.
Yeah, we have some that are coming up to be replaced that we're definitely targeting for lower emissions. We've talked about the recreation van, and we weren't able to find an electric van of the size that they want currently. Maybe Adrian wants to add to that, but we're trying to look at a plug-in hybrid, right? And we're looking at all the options. Whether there isn't much out there for heavy-duty vehicles, but looking at the low-hanging fruit, light-duty vehicles.
There is a company back east, the name of which escapes me, that converts Ford vehicles.
I believe you might be referring to Motive.
I think so.
I have talked with them, and it turns out that is probably cost prohibitive. They were quite expensive, even including very extensive California incentives and rebates. I want to say it would be on the order of $250,000 for a van, and maybe $100,000 to $150,000 worth of incentives. So we're still talking.
Yeah. No, that's the one I was thinking.
6 figures for a van.
Yeah, it's used for fleet vehicles. They get hundreds of thousands of miles a year.
They're really intended. Most of those are sized more for shuttle type of vehicles, so we would be really underutilizing that capacity. It would not really make a whole lot of sense for us. But I went down the road, and I was surprised to even hear that they could configure a vehicle small and with a low enough number of seats to not require a commercial driver's license, which is one of the Park and Rec Department's requirements, is not having.
And they thought the Pacifica was too small?
No, I think that is still an option that we are looking at. The Chrysler Pacifica plug-in electric hybrid seems to be one of the best options out there for our needs.
What about our police fleet? Are they able to be on electric or hybrids?
They could. I think that implementation is pretty early. I don't think we want to be on the forefront. I have heard also anecdotally that some other agencies, I think it was the sheriffs, Sonoma County sheriffs, looked at Teslas, and I'm not sure that fits our demographic, but they had at the time not been able to connect with the engineers because they have to retrofit whatever vehicle to hold when they do pursuit, the laptops and all of their equipment, and kind of
Plus, I think,
re-engineer.
didn't we just buy new police cars
Well,
in the last few years?
we rotate. I think they're
But
buying.
Ford does sell, well, at least they used to, sell a police interceptor version of the, what's that? It's their sedan hybrid, the Fusion hybrid. I think they have a 2018 model of it. It's one of the ones they list. I mean, they have the Explorer-based one. There's the Taurus-based one, and then I think the smaller one's based on the Fusion, and the Fusion one has the hybrid drivetrain in it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's plug-in, but I'm pretty sure they still have a hybrid version of it.
Denver has a Tesla police vehicle, and
Expensive.
well, actually, no. When you consider how much they pay for the police cars, they're not
Because
expensive.
they're outfitted. Yeah.
Phyllis, do you think that would work in this community?
It might set the wrong
police
message.
driving Teslas?
Yeah.
I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I will say I know City of Fremont is piloting a electric pursuit police vehicle. I don't know if it's a Tesla. It might be another model.
A Leaf. Are they just hoping people will be laughing so hard they won't be able to outright?
We're trying to. I think maybe the low-hanging fruit is an electric motorcycle.
Oh, there you go.
I like that.
Yeah.
That works.
No, I actually think we'd be a really good candidate for an electric police vehicle because our community is geographically small.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. For I think half the stuff when they're running around chasing raccoons out of people's attics. Yeah, that would probably. Or I mean, meaning when they're responding to community. I mean, they're not always responding to
I know what you're talking
emergencies.
That's true.
It's community outreach and whatnot. I know that there are some police departments that use the hybrid Toyota Camry. I've seen New York City for a while there had some Toyota, like the SUV. What is that thing? Highlander. So I know other police departments out there are doing it, but typically not for heavy duty pursuit purposes.
I don't know if we need.
But we don't need much of that. So.
Well, you're right. We probably don't need much of that.
Anyway, let's keep going, Betty.
All right, so on page
Yardways.
6,
Moving.
we only have 2 more pages. Actually, only 3 more rows. So on page 6, yard waste ordinance. So there were some questions around this one. Can we require professional landscape companies to divert the yard waste? And then there's some other items around food scrap collection and banning organics from the landfill. So I think these questions around how to enforce, I have seen or heard of some cities, the way they enforce is they do audits of what's in the trash cans, and you could get a fine. So I know that's a little Big Brother-ish. But there is already an economic incentive, I think, via the rates. So maybe that's sufficient. So it's in the current climate action plan. Is that something we want to, amp up, or is there something else related to waste?
Yeah, I think we got kind of confused about how we would require professional landscapers who are probably taking their material outside of the city. How do we enforce,
Well, I think, didn't we determine that was self-moderating because they can dump yard waste for free? But if they were taking it to the dump and trying to dump it as garbage, they'd have to pay for it?
Yeah. I
And it
don't know,
doesn't
but
tell them
that's
from
like
just dumping it.
enforcement, though, is.
I'm not sure that's a huge priority item given how little, how small the volume is. I
Yeah.
think we've probably done about as much of that as we can,
Okay.
personally.
I agree.
Well, why did we get all confused then?
I think we're just.
Well, I think we were just asking questions.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's just questions.
All right.
Okay. And I think some of them may have been more for me.
Okay.
But I think this next one on page 7,
Yes.
Greywater Ready Ordinance, this is something
like that.
town of Portola Valley has passed a new ordinance.
Yay.
The all new construction in Portola Valley include they include the recycled water, the purple pipe. But Greywater Ready is very similar. Can you install that two-way valve, when you're retrofitting or when you're building a new building? I think the two-way valve is pretty inexpensive. It's like 10 or 20 bucks.
Yeah, I
But
think we
there's
had
also the
some
pipe.
questions about are people connecting with all their fixtures or?
It's not
Is it-
all, laundry to landscape is the lowest hanging fruit. So that's a pretty easy retrofit. And a lot of times your laundry equipment is, not in the middle of the house anyways. It's kind of on your way out. There are some fixtures, like you wouldn't connect your kitchen sink, for example. That's considered black water. So it'd really be laundry.
Dishwasher?
No.
Why is kitchen sink considered black water?
Grease.
lot
I think it's
of
grease, right?
Oh,
I think it's grease and also pathogens from, say I just washed something that had chicken on it.
Right.
Those.
I forgot meat.
Yeah.
The same is also true of the washing machine if you have kids.
Most people don't.
Oh, they have all sorts of things on them.
So there,
Oh, shoot, you're not supposed to do that? Oh.
That's why you got the valve.
there are valves to switch it. So if
Got
you
it.
are, for instance, washing a load of reusable
Toxic
diapers, you switch it to not going out to your landscape and going to the sewer.
Hear your plants screaming.
I think that one's really good, and I think
I
we
do too.
should pursue that one because water's becoming the
Huge.
new gold of California.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's-
And then I guess, is there more related to, I guess there's not much of a recycled water supply out here, but there's also rainwater, is another.
rainwater catchment.
But-
Yeah.
Yeah, rain barrels, but
Yeah, but we don't get consistent rain through the year, so it's like
Yeah.
you get everything
All at once.
all at once, and then your summer's going to be
You
dry.
need a
months
huge
and then
barrel,
dry.
yeah.
It'd be nice to have it until you get the instant hot water heaters. Have it so that when you can have it on when you're just running the water to get it warm, and then switch it over to,
Mm.
for the shower. I don't know if showers are black water or not.
The shower's usually gray water.
That was great.
So yeah, I was just a little confused because maybe this is the one I was remembering the sense of confusion about. Because like, are you gonna have switches like diverters at each fixture, or you have one diverter for the whole house? And then are you at the bathroom sink and you've got to run outside to switch the line? Or I mean, just wanted to know more about how it kind of works out, and so I can kind of get some idea about some kind of feelings about cost benefit.
The ones I've seen have only used one kind of valve. So I think that is the easiest.
Valve.
Yeah.
And where's the valve placed? Give us an example.
I think it's right next to the laundry machine. That's
Okay.
where I've seen it. Yeah.
Cool.
Because that would be the only water that they would divert. They wouldn't divert the shower water at that point or anything.
Can
Unless
do
they did a
shower water.
separate.
You'd have to have a separate valve, right?
Right. Well, okay. So yeah, if you want to do your shower too, that would be a separate valve. I haven't seen those. Don't seem as prevalent. Yeah.
Because of the volume
The
of water.
volume. Yeah.
You've got a low flow shower
And I
head.
think maybe it's harder to get to. Like the plumbing for your shower is all, like I feel like the plumbing for the laundry is
Usually
easier.
close.
More accessible.
Yeah,
Yeah, usually from a
Exposed, yeah,
wall
more
or something.
exposed. not behind. So, all right, and then the last one is related to green lease programs. Is there more that we can do here related to leased property? City of Boulder has a pretty robust leased property ordinance where every, first of all, you have to register all your kind of leased property, and then every like 4 to 5 years you need to show that you're meeting certain requirements for lighting efficiency and for like weatherization. So that's a strategy to try to get at the tenant and landlord split incentive issue.
I think that would be a really good one for us in particular for commercial, because so many of the buildings in Crocker Industrial Park are leased, not owned. And it would be really beneficial when we could really probably get some good
Leverage.
traction with that.
Yeah, we should look at folding something like that into our building energy disclosure ordinance that we're already working on.
Yeah.
That's a great suggestion. Okay. So, so now you have the list, and I guess, Adrian, what kind of format would do you want folks to read through this and then send you like comments?
Yes.
Okay, yes, that would be right. By the end of next week, or do you want it earlier because you need
I
to
would
get yours done?
prefer, so I don't know if we've confirmed this. I believe we're trying to have a CAP subcommittee meeting next Thursday afternoon.
So
So
before
maybe, midday Thursday at the absolute latest, preferably by a week from today, if you could. And again, this is not your only opportunity, but this is the kind of the first pass. We really hope that this kind of first time through gets us the lion's share of the work on evaluating the measures. So take the time to read through the list, and you don't have to like write out the whole thing. If you want to just refer to it by the code, EC1. I like this, I don't like this, I want to recommend this. If you have ideas that aren't on this list, definitely feel free to send them to me. You all have my phone number too. You can call me if that's easier. I'm open to whatever works best for you, but do want to encourage you to take the time to look at it over the next week as much as you can, so that we can get Betty a list by Friday next week of our first pass.
Okay.
Cool.
And so that's the 15 that you're picking for next week? Is that what it was?
There's no set number.
Okay.
So yeah,
But probably not all of these is the idea.
Hopefully not.
Okay.
Because I think there may be some other ideas too that we're going to add. So we do need the analysis to be manageable. So I guess we could go back to we're already on the presentation. So I have a couple more slides if you want to hit the next. So next steps here, finalize the list as Adrian mentioned, and then once we have this preliminary set of cap measures, we'll estimate the greenhouse gas reduction potential, and then the cost benefit to support prioritization of what to include. And then next slide. And then finally, we alluded to a fairly aggressive schedule, but here's what we're looking at. We are asking Adrian to provide us with the initial cap measure selection by next Friday, the 24th. I am kind of a pushover if you need until early the next week. But what we're trying to do is have the quantification done by, early to mid-October. And I anticipate that once you make your selection, we'll have some questions or we'll need some additional data. And then, so it might take a little bit for the city to provide some updated square footage or, waste data perhaps. And then after we come up with our recommendations in that October timeframe, I anticipate we'll probably come back to the OSEC and kind of summarize, here's what's been prioritized. This is the result of the cost-benefit analysis. And then we'll be starting to write the draft climate action plan with the draft targeted by end of November. And then we do a little bit of quality, review, make sure that the quantification that we came up with and some of the recommendations translated to the draft cap. Because we do ask the city, we provide a template, but the city does need to layer in some Brisbane-specific flavor and help write out what was intended by the OSEC or by the CAP subcommittee in terms of the specific measure description. So actually, maybe that's something that OSEC could help with too, is help, edit some of these measure descriptions that go into the climate action plan. So so the funding is guaranteed through end of the year, and that's why we have such an aggressive schedule.
Okay.
Can I send a reminder Tuesday midday?
Sure.
Why not?
Yes.
Set a reminder to send a reminder.
Exactly. We like that.
In the last bullet point, further opportunities for the public input are OSEC will look at either the measures when we finalize them or the full cap. That's what we did last time. So you made a recommendation to take it to council, and then it'll go to council after, which would probably be January. That's an opportunity for the public to give input.
Okay.
All right, well, that's all I had for this evening. So, and then that's just my contact information, which, you're more than welcome to email me. Adrian and Karen are also great resources, so I would probably CC them on any replies, just keep them in the loop. But whatever works best.
Thanks, Betty.
Okay,
Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Do you have a
go ahead.
question or comment?
I'm just wondering how, once we set these goals, how are they going to be monitored and enforced? And then the other thing is, if we, does it have anything to do in terms of deadlines and being grandfathered in with the decision that will be made about the Baylands development in terms of, because a lot of these things would affect those plans?
So on the monitoring and implementation, that is one of the chapters in the plan. So we lay out kind of more generally, I would say, kind of how things will be monitored. Of course, our greenhouse gas emissions inventory are one way that are monitoring. I, as the full-time staff kind of responsible for the implementation, am always kind of keeping an eye on what projects are moving forward and where we may need to accelerate something or take a step back on something. So a lot of that does kind of fall on staff, but once that plan is out there, certainly OSAC and members of the public would have that opportunity to follow up with us and say, hey, where are we on this? On the Baylands question, these are really two kind of separate things that just happen to be happening at the same time. They're really not related in any way. So as Betty mentioned, there are some questions about whether the funding for their services are going to be available in 2019. And thus, we said we want to be able to take advantage of their technical assistance and move this forward. And that really is what drove the decision to not include the Baylands in this, is that question is out there and we need to move forward now. So we are excluding the Baylands from this plan under the assumption that once a decision is made, there will be further planning processes that we will have opportunities to, the public, everyone will have an opportunity to influence that process. And should an update be required after those move forward, then we can always come back and update this plan. So that's really...
Sorry, that was an accidental cough.
And I would like to make one other point about the monitoring of implementation. And give props to the county for their leadership in supporting the jurisdictions in monitoring their climate action planning process. So the county is collecting data through an open data portal and tracking, how much solar PV is being installed across the different cities, how much, electric vehicle uptake. So there are some key performance indicators that the county is collecting at scale to support the cities. Yes, Barbara.
This is actually more for Adrian. I know we had that conversation about the Baylands, and I understood in the meeting, and we understood your rationale. And at the time, I accepted it, but I gotta say, as time has gone on, I have felt a little uneasy about it. I just want to put this out there, and the committee can discuss or tell me I'm wrong. But so many things we've tried to do along the way, we've been told we can't do that because you have a application in process. And as I kind of let it go over in my mind, I'm feeling more and more like we should move forward with the assumption that the Baylands is going to happen, so that we have things on the books now, so that there isn't a fight about it later. They are part of the given. They're part of the given floor. They're in the room, and they must be dealt with. So I just wanted to say that I've kind of changed. I wanted to say publicly that I've changed my mind upon rumination, and see maybe if the committee wanted to discuss that at some point.
I kind of agree, because it's the 800-pound gorilla in the room for Brisbane when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 and beyond, especially with 7 million square feet of non-residential space being contemplated, and the number of jobs and destination and origins that will create for greenhouse gases, not to mention, 2,200 units of housing, upwards another 3, maybe even more square footage, because it hasn't been capped. So that will double the residential population of Brisbane at least. And so it's kind of the 800-pound gorilla in the room. So doing this exercise without including it is, we're, instead of looking at 8,000 metric tons or 28,000 metric tons, we'll be looking at more like 190 metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions. So that changes, a complete game changer for our climate action plan goals.
Yeah,
and especially if we are not contemplating doing it on a per capita basis, which I think is just a numbers game that we're fooling ourselves when it comes to climate crisis.
Well, the per capita is speaking to the fact that it's challenging to lower your emissions by 49% from where they're projected to, where they are, when they're going to increase by potentially 100%. So the method doesn't really, the total method doesn't really fit when jurisdictions population in commercial, daytime population is gonna double. Or
But
maybe-
people need to realize that because, I mean, look at what's happening in California right now. It's on fire. It's burning. You know, this is climate change, and that's why we're even having a climate action plan. So we really need to look at solid numbers and not, you know, per capita or formulas or whatever. We need to look at what's really happening on the ground right now.
Well, and that's fine too, but
Serious.
we don't
Yeah.
actually know what's gonna be built there and when, so.
That's true. That's
Unless you
absolutely
guys do.
true, and that was the rationale that was given in the meeting, and I can't disagree with that even 1%. And yet, I still feel like we would be better off if we had some things on the books that accounted for it now, before it was an argument.
And also with the timeline.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a problem. We're kind of damned if we do and damned if we don't, but I would feel better taking the high road on
I
this
mean,
one.
we're not trying to just have the gorilla in the room and ignore it. Your staff
I
is
know.
open to looking into it as
Yeah.
soon as we have something quantifiable. I mean, we can look at an update in 1 year, 2 years, whatever need be, but we have this, we may lose the ability of the consultant to quantify these measures we're talking about if we push into next year, and it just
Okay.
seems too much.
No, we don't want to do
hassle.
that.
Right.
We don't want to do
Yeah,
that.
what I would recommend we do is absolutely not avoid the 800-pound gorilla, but there is certainly language that we can put in the climate action plan to acknowledge the issue and to, you know, recognize that, yeah, your emissions could double, you know, with such a big development, and yet you also have like housing pressures, and that these are difficult issues for local governments, you know, to bridge between the housing need, especially, you know, dense infill housing versus our climate goals. And perhaps in the climate action plan, we could include some items, mitigating, you know, items for Baylands that the community would like to see to try to address those, you know, additional emissions related to that development.
That sounds like a good compromise to allow us to reach our plan to get this done, and at the same time acknowledge that we have a serious issue here with this.
Just to repeat, we sort of already have that with the sustainability framework, which was written for the Baylands, and maybe what this committee could do is go to the website and review that framework and see if we want to amp it up,
Yeah.
and maybe suggest things from that we include in the climate action plan. I don't think we have to start from the beginning, because there is a committee consisting of elected officials and city staff and some other people, including a representative from Open Space Committee, which was me. And we wrote a long document about a sustainability framework for the Baylands. So maybe everybody should take a look at that.
Yeah, I think it's time for me to reread that.
Good point, Glenn.
Yeah, and we can even include it in the climate action plan by reference, or, you know, and to bring it back forward and acknowledge that great work that's already happened.
Right, maybe, but it would be a good idea for us to go back and look at it, because I think we finished that in 2016, I think that was. That was a long process. I mean, we met for a year and a half.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Okay, good.
thank you.
Great.
All right, thanks, Betty. We're gonna excuse you.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I'm sure I'll be seeing you all again, so thank you again.
Thank you.
Did anybody give you cookies?
Thank you.
Cookies. Are they gluten-free?
Are they gluten-free?
No, Ingrid usually gets the butter cookies.
Okay.
Thanks for coming, Beth.
Thank you, Beth.
Are we going,
Please have a member.
Bye, Beth. No, no, Beth. Are we going to go back to consider recommendation for the city contribution to Green Climate Fund, or
It's on our agenda.
that was number 6?
Indeed it is.
Okay.
And I apologize.
No, that's
I
okay.
thought I had a slide in here for it. I don't know where it went.
Back.
Maybe we can just jump to the agenda slide?
Yeah, let's go to the agenda. There we go. Consider recommending. Bye, Betty. Thank you. Consider recommending a city contribution to the Green Climate Fund.
Glenn, I wonder if you would want to go ahead and introduce this one. You're much more familiar with it than I am.
Sure. So we all know about the Climate Action Summit. And one of the sort of underlying themes of the Global Climate Action Summit is to reiterate that Brisbane, among other cities, I think there are 2,800 entities so far that responded to President Trump's withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement by saying we are still in. But there were really a couple of significant commitments that the United States made in Paris during the Obama administration. One was to reduce emissions. But another one, which I think, which is why I asked it to be included in the agenda, is equally important, is that the United States committed $3 billion to the Green Climate Fund. And the purposes of that fund are to basically it's to go to developing countries. Half the fund was to go to helping developing countries reduce their emissions because, you know, we all know this is a global problem and everybody has to reduce no matter what their previous contributions were or to the atmospheric problem that we have or what their capacity is to fix it. Everybody has to cut. We have to get emissions to about 0 by 2050, and that means everybody, even poor countries. So half of the Green Climate Fund was supposed to go to help developing countries reduce emissions by doing things like helping them to buy expensive green technology and things like that, which they otherwise can't afford. The other half was to help them cope with what they are already dealing with because of the carbon dioxide that's already in the atmosphere. So probably people remember that the Philippines got clobbered in 2013 by a typhoon, which was one of the strongest ever recorded in the Pacific. The Philippine delegate to the climate negotiations that year was pretty much in tears because while he was in Warsaw at the climate talks, he wasn't sure whether his family had survived the hurricane. They were in Tacloban, which was one of the cities that was hardest hit. So developing countries are being confronted with a really horrible problem, which is that they have to deal with the consequences of a problem which they did not cause. So if you look at developing countries, Bangladesh, for instance, which is one of the countries that's kind of almost a poster child for a climate change victim. Bangladesh emits something like 0.2 of a ton per person per year of carbon dioxide, whereas the average American contribution is assessed at something like 16 tons per year of carbon dioxide. So what developing countries have been asking for at international climate meetings, every single one, as far as I know, going back to the mid-1990s, is they've been saying developed countries, wealthy countries, need to help us cope. So when President Trump basically stopped payment on the $3 billion, we've paid $1 billion of it so far. $2 billion are outstanding, and the president announced that he was not giving another dime of that pledge to developing countries. And I should point out that the $3 billion is really only a down payment on what developing countries are likely to need in the coming years when you add up, you know, things like hurricanes and floods and droughts that wipe out farmers and things like that. So there is a campaign which is in its early stages, and basically the city that has really sort of stepped up on this is Seattle. But Seattle has formed, I guess, a commission to study and with the intention of making a city-level pledge to make good on the outstanding $2 billion. And they're asking other cities to join them. And so I'm asking OSEC if we would like to make a recommendation to the City Council that Brisbane make a contribution, which would be symbolic. Nobody thinks that cities, a lot of which are much more strapped than we are, can make up this $2 billion. But the idea is to say that we recognize the United States contribution to the problems that poor people in poor countries are facing. We are making a symbolic contribution we ask others to do the same. So that's the ask.
And what are we looking at? Do you have any number in mind of what did Seattle? I mean, we're not going to do that, but
I don't think Seattle's even figured out an amount yet. And I'm kind of stuck as to what, Brisbane could and should come up with. I don't know. I'm open to suggestions.
do you have any idea, Karen? I mean, where this would come from? How would we propose this?
I'm not sure where it would come from. I know that at the subcommittee we talked about, and the number suggested was $500, and that seemed very doable.
500 to 1,000. I mean,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
1,000 would be better, but
We just.
I'm sort of open.
I would ask finance staff or.
Pardon?
I would ask finance staff or the city manager what they would suggest and it
Kinda go
come
from there.
from OSEC as a recommendation.
Or take up I don't know if there's any way to take up a collection in town, just state to the city, if anyone wants to donate, the city will send the money in the name of the city of Brisbane.
There is going to be a crowdfunding campaign. I don't think that's live yet. The Center for American Progress and 350.org for Seattle, and there's one other organization whose name I'm forgetting right now, are sort of joining this call, and I believe a crowdfunding site is going to be set up, but I think it's an official city
Oh, yeah, so it would be for Seattle. They would have their own crowdfunding. We'd have to have our own
Right,
crowdfunding.
I could see if that came out of the general fund, I could see people in the city getting cranky about getting involved in politics in that level. But
I
if
was
you were
just-
saying it was a donation, like, we're gonna collect it and then send it, and if you don't wanna give, that's fine.
I don't know. I was just going to throw out this number, $2,300. That's 50 cents for each person who lives in Brisbane. And if we could run some campaign where citizens could match that, then I think that would be really nice.
I like that. Make it $1 per person. I mean, when you think we're going to be spending like $30,000 on Day in the Park or $40,000
Yeah,
on
it's
Day in
true.
the Park,
It still seems
mean-
like it would be unpopular.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Brisbane's a lot more open-hearted than that. I think when you think it's only $1 per person that lives in Brisbane, that's like less than $5,000. It seems like, and we're kind of.
But that money could be spent, ripping ivy off of trees to keep them from dying. There's a lot of other things it could do around the city that would have direct ecological benefit to this area. That's the problem.
I understand that.
But I mean, it's
It's
also
I think the
especially-
point of this is that this is not a gift. This is a matter of justice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And $500, you're in the symbolic area. Once you're talking about 4,300 or 8,600, then you're in the area where you're actually taking money away from another program. That's what I was trying to get towards.
So I'm thinking like $1,000 from the city and encourage people to donate would be a good beginning.
Yeah, I mean, just take our words to the city council. I'm voting 2,300. Michelle'd like to do 4,000. Glenn said 1,000 to 5,000. Just take their temperature and see what they feel good about, I guess.
Well, I think we're hoping for an OSEC, a committee recommendation.
Yeah, I was
but
going to say, it's
there
for us
is-
to
I don't know if
It
that's
sounds like
something
we
we
got
want
a
to get
mix.
involved in. It just seems like that's playing with politics that are above our pay grade.
That's why we're here, though.
No, and this is
Yeah.
true. This is
We're
true.
trying to save the planet,
Yeah.
and it's a good message.
It is a good message, but the
$1,000, if we can't get $1,000,
It's pretty sad.
yeah.
well, but think about what that $1,000 could do at Castaños Canyon or around the city. People are hoping that we will help, the ecology of the hillside and the city itself.
It's true.
If we're mailing money off that will have no tangible benefit to us, I could see people getting cranky about it, even if they are
It
environmental.
will have intangible benefits.
Yes,
Oh, it will.
we'll have intangible benefits certainly.
Yeah.
But there will be
maybe not
tangible
tangible
benefits if we
benefits.
keep a tree from dying because we pulled the ivy off of it, for example.
Yeah.
Let me bring up one other point here, which is that the United States withdrawal from the Paris Agreement and its reneging on this commitment, one could say that it's a moral wrong.
Yes,
But it's also worrisome in that we could be looking at a situation where the entire agreement comes apart. And people say, if the United States is not willing to step up, why should we? And that really scares me. And it's something, and it's not something that poor little Brisbane can undo by itself.
No.
But if you consider the state of international relations and the state of U.S. foreign policy right now, and the fact that we are rushing headlong toward at least 3 degrees Celsius of warming, it's going to be really hard. It would be really hard to meet the 2-degree Paris target, even if everybody does everything they said they would do. And here we are saying we're not going to do what we said we would do. And what's to stop other countries from saying, the heck with it?
Well, nothing.
Okay.
Why should we? So I think there is a self-interest under here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not charity. It is a statement that, that yes, we keep our commitments, and there was good reason for these commitments to be made in the first place.
How
Yeah,
about
It's
a
definitely
pretty
stable.
small, it's a pretty small gesture.
we play the Price is Right, and we just start at $2,000, and then everybody on the committee gives a thumbs up or thumbs down, and then somebody throws out, and based on the number of thumbs, we give it another number, and we just come at something that we're all more or less comfortable with.
And this
how
is
does
just
that
to make
sound?
we're just making a recommendation.
Yeah,
that
we're just
we're
making a
comfortable
recommendation.
Kind of getting
I'm
a
comfortable
range,
with $1,000.
a range from where we started, 500, 1,000, up
Okay.
to 4. And keep in mind, this is symbolic. We're a small city.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not
I'm
meant
not asking
to.
for a lot.
Our amount is not going to fix any
Right.
particular
Yes.
Nothing.
But it's,
If we move
It's
Correct.
the entire
symbolic.
If a
budget,
It's
little
to say
city
we,
goes first,
we
we're
agree
hoping
with the
that
Paris
there's a
Agreement.
cascading effect
Yes.
from all the other agencies. So we're trying to just come out early, not make something, not create
No.
some insurmountable, controversial number that's going to create a lot of discussion and
Yeah.
have
1,000.
possibly the community say, well, you could do something else with this money,
Yeah.
and start that whole debate. So if I were trying to create a consensus out of what I heard, which is kind of the whole range, maybe we recommend a lower number because it's meant to be symbolic and a
Symbolic.
token.
Yeah, I think the $500 number is
Following.
perfectly symbolic. Once
Okay,
you
let's
hit-
start at
once you hit 4
1,000.
digits-
Thumbs up or thumbs down on 1,000.
Why don't you make a motion?
Oh, yeah.
I would like to
Yeah,
make
right, we
a
have-
motion that we do recommend to the city a contribution to the Green Climate Fund first.
Mhm.
So no number. Just,
So do we have thumbs for 2,000?
Do we have to motion first?
well,
But
I
we
think
haven't come
have
up with
to-
a
I think-
number
I
yet.
think you have to motion with a number. Like, do you want to motion
Yeah.
for $1,000
Yeah.
bucks?
Yeah.
I would like to motion for $1,000. We'd like to take a motion for $1,000.
I'll second that.
I would like to make a motion for 2,000.
I
I
think we
still
have
feel
to,
like we don't have a number.
no, I think we have to do that one first.
Thumb first.
Okay.
That's the,
Okay.
$1,000.
$1,000. I would do $1,000. Okay.
So motion pass.
Okay.
Now,
Real.
should we look at $2,000?
oh, Jesus.
Let's make a motion for it to move up to $2,000.
I would go 2,000. Yeah. So we're about split at this point, right? So
Is your hand up, Megan, or not?
I'm down.
Oh, you
Sorry,
said
my
4-3.
arm.
Yeah.
okay.
4-3.
Okay. So do we want to split it and say 1,500 and see if we want to go 15?
Well, what do you think the benefit of sending $1,500 versus $500 is going to be?
I mean, every dollar is a dollar. That's all. And I just think 50 cents per person seems like a real reasonable.
But we're always
and also
fighting,
give-
we're always fighting for funding to do things like park cleanup and buying property on the hill. Every little dollar helps there too.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Just
you're
from
right.
my point of view, when you're looking at the big picture, and I
We also
struggle
do
with
a
this
lot of
every
silly things
day.
with our money.
This is true.
You know, going up and working on the mountain
Those are the fun
and
days.
spending so much time in what we do. But if we don't take care of it globally, it's not going to make any difference at all 200 years from now.
No, I
Not
completely
gonna
agree. I
make
think
a
everyone
difference.
here absolutely agrees.
So we need to make a statement.
This is it.
And we shouldn't be too cheap about the statement we make, or it's not really a statement.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just.
And the symbolism of 50 cents a person that lives here, I think makes a more powerful statement. I think it really does.
Well, what about the statement of we sent $500 and then we spent $5,000 planting trees?
These are, I don't want to get into a value judgment. These are all wonderful things.
Yeah, they are, and it's hard.
And they're all necessary.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask for money for Mountain Watch all the time, and other people are going to ask for money for other things too. But I'm glad you brought this forward, Glenn, because it is important to make a global statement.
I'd like to make a motion
Yes.
that, and I don't know if making a motion is the right thing to do, but there seemed to be a pretty good consensus around $1,000. So I suggest that we do that and encourage people to make individual contributions.
I agree.
To add to that.
I agree.
I think $1,000 is a nice round number.
$1,000 is good. I think
It's
we've already,
It's not a huge amount of
It
money.
already passed. It already passed.
and I think we could also bring it up at the Brisbane in the Park, and talk about it then too. When we have maybe
I think
hopefully get some audience this year.
By having it be like a value that's per person, so if it's like $1 per person, then it makes the matching kind of more incentivized, because it's like it's $1 per person, and then if you match that each $1 per person, that's it, then it doubles.
Well, that's $4,600.
So
My only issue with that was much what Ross was saying, is that we're saying we're going to give $1 per person, where there might be people that don't want to give it all. So I would rather stick with us as a committee stating we'd like to do $1,000, and then we do some sort of the fund, crowdfunding campaign, and get people and talk to them about it at the meeting. It
Well, what
just
if we
makes me
did-
feel more comfortable?
What if we did 25 cents per person?
I don't like doing per person.
Okay, okay.
I don't. That's me personally, because there are too many people out there, like Ross says, that may not want their penny 25 cents even put in.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
I think actually looking at a per
they're
person amount
Grinches.
is not the right way to look at this.
Okay.
I think it's a statement.
Okay.
It's just,
And
that's what was the question.
you know, if you make it a per person amount, it really trivializes it.
Okay.
That's true, and I think we've already made the we've already passed the recommendation
Okay.
of $1,000.
Do we want to see? I mean, we almost got a 50-50 split at 2,000. Do we want to try?
Drop it
Done.
and move on.
Okay,
Okay.
fine.
We're barely halfway through this.
Yeah.
It's-
That's
Okay,
good.
that's fine.
So we're good. So
We
I'm
have your
moving on.
recommendation. Thank you.
thank you, everybody. And Glenn, thank you very much. I think this is awesome. So appreciate it. Okay, so committees. Do we have anything to say? Subcommittee reports.
Feel free to just talk about the ones that have met. and-
Yes. Anybody want to talk about open space, climate action? We already talked enough about that. Events. That's big. You guys need to talk because that's coming up.
So we did meet subcommittee. Do you want to talk about it, or should I?
We all, So the subcommittee we met last week, right? Yes. And talked about the various events in Day in the Park. Our understanding is the event will be held on the grass, which was great to hear. We also discussed the various kid activities. We decided on little flags would be provided for the kid activity, and they would paint on the flags. We brought samples of stencils, which we're going to go back to the drawing board and get more that are directly associated with OSEC's mission statement. And then there was an idea brought up regarding how we would hang those flags once they were completed by the kids. And Michelle brought up the idea about a, what's it called, spinning clothes dryer. So Claire immediately got onto Craigslist and found one. And we actually drove down on Sunday and picked it up. It was in Santa Cruz, so we picked it up. $30.
yay!
But Michelle bought it, so
I bought it. so
no
I'll
cost
own
to
it
the committee.
afterwards.
Yeah,
I thought it wasn't available.
I know, but it
Well,
was.
Yeah, Claire. Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So we do need a really sturdy outdoor umbrella stand if anyone has one to donate.
Or to borrow, you mean?
Yeah.
borrow.
Yeah. Cast iron would work, I think.
If you're on Nextdoor, that might be a good place to
Yeah.
look.
I don't know, maybe it's,
I also need to get one, so if I do,
maybe it's in
I'll
December
don
sale
it.
time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we have a few things to still follow up on. One thing being the cables are really thin on this on the clothes dryer, so we have to be careful of the type of clothespins we get. So it'll hold the flags. And we're going to meet next week, I believe. to kind of finalize things.
Yeah, I think we were still trying to decide. We have like a few list of things of what we want to highlight, and we hadn't really narrowed that down yet fully.
Like the serious stuff, like solar panels and.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So in addition
Home
to
intel.
intel.
Yeah.
And the crowdfunding campaign for the. We got things to add.
And whether we can get extra table for kids to use, et cetera.
There are a few follow-ups that I need to take care of, and I apologize. I've been a little behind on that preparing for today's meeting and out sick for a couple of days, so I'm delighted to know that the clothes dryer worked out, and we'll be in touch with you. And I believe actually our meeting is going to be 2 weeks from today for this group, because Education and Outreach is going to be meeting 1 week from today. So
We're on
filling up all of our Wednesdays.
Yeah, so education and outreach hasn't met since the last
No.
meeting.
Anybody else want to say anything? Any committee? Nope.
Let's see, not on that, didn't do that, not on that. We have a meeting next week for the tree.
Oh.
So,
Tree ordinance or the?
Or the
yeah.
Tree ordinance, it's
Yeah.
not ours, not
Oh.
the
Yeah,
festival.
tree ordinance.
festival ordinance.
Well, that kind of correlates with EC6, right? The free trees, shade trees. Okay.
I think
Good.
that's it.
Okay. Next on the agenda,
Chair and committee, calendar items.
calendar. I looked at this.
A quick question. So for the next Habitat Day, we've been doing 9:30 to 12:30, but coastal cleanup statewide is 9 to noon. And I just wanted to get a quick feel of keep it 9:30 to 12:30 or shift it to match the statewide 9 to noon.
I think we should shift it to match the statewide because I think they choose the time and the date based on tides, don't they? Or do they?
Well, no, the tides shift all down the coast, but
Yeah.
all right, we'll match the statewide.
I mean,
I mean,
think there would be any less response if it's too early, because we are shuttling people to the
Yeah.
location.
well, 9:30 to 12:30 is good with me. I mean, what do you guys think?
I don't,
I
like,
have no
I don't like
opinion.
getting up in the morning, so.
I mean, we thought you would have
9:30 is better.
9:30 is
idea
better.
about that.
I'm up at 5:30 to walk the dog, so. it
All right,
doesn't matter to
9:30
me.
to 12:30.
9:30, 12:30. Okay.
Okay.
Not much else on the schedule. I don't know if we'll have scavenger in September, the annual report. They just submitted and our CalRecycle reviews it, so I
We
think,
do October.
yeah, we might have them in October.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel like we've already done, have we already addressed chair and committee member matters? Okay, so staff updates? Cool.
No further chair and committee.
Okay. And the next meeting is the 19th, which
Oh.
I.
Wait, whoa, staff.
Oh, Steph, you did. I thought you said you didn't have any. Thought we already.
No, I was asking if there were no further chair and committee.
Nope. Perfect.
I have a few staff updates. I have a couple of slides actually for them. Well, let me talk about the non-slide ones first. So it was alluded to in the review of the cap measures. We found out today we got approved for the Bay Ren ZNE study. So Karen and I are going to have a call with them on Friday to get that process started. We also recently learned that we were awarded the Platinum Spotlight Award, Platinum Spotlight Beacon Award for our 32% agency greenhouse gas emissions reductions.
Yay.
That's very exciting.
Yay.
One of the projects you may remember from Julia's time here as our summer intern was getting some of our other facilities outfitted with new compost. So the fire station and the marina office both now have a full suite of 4 sort bins at their facilities. The pool office ones have been received, and we also have some coming. They are taking a little longer to get here for the pool deck, so we will have compost available at the pool, both in the office and on the deck for pizza parties and all those pizza boxes to go in the compost. Yes.
Can I ask a question? So at the marina, who's picking up the compost at the marina? Are they,
Scavenger.
you're putting it out of the compost bin?
The compost in the office.
In the
for the marina office, and there will be a I don't recall off the top of my head if we decided they needed just a toter or a dumpster for their compost in the enclosure.
The reason I'm asking is the yacht club produces a lot of green waste, but it just goes into our garbage because there is no green waste pickup at the marina.
That is being included
they're adding-
by scavengers. We've been in touch with them to make sure they get the facilities. I think we would probably need to talk. Perhaps we can do that offline about
The marina.
the marina, the yacht club, and
Okay,
where
'cause
that goes.
We can roll
Yeah.
it down to the marina office if we need to.
They're going to be there. They're
You
going
might
to
be able to
there.
pick up a
Yeah.
toter at the yacht club too.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
We'd appreciate that.
Glad.
I mean,
It'd be really good.
Let's
Yeah.
follow up on that.
excellent. Yay. Oh, how nice
God,
is
that
that?
would be awesome.
Okay, let's go ahead to the first slide update. A few months back, we talked about Adopt a Spot, and there was a great suggestion from the committee about Adopt a Spot stations, essentially, putting out some bag dispensers. So this is obviously not exactly what they will look like. This is a kind of quick and dirty mock-up, if you will. But we are working towards a kind of pilot program, if you will, testing out a few of these stations. So these are a few of the proposed locations, and as I said, kind of a quick mock-up of roughly what we're going for: a dispenser, a sign, a trash container for them to go into. So
Great.
that is moving forward.
Awesome. Yay.
Next one I have is our EV charging station update. Yesterday was 6 months, so today I got to go look at how did we do for our first 6 months, and bottom line is we did excellent. We had a 3-year goal of 75,000 kilowatt hours, and we are almost halfway there in just 6 months.
Yay.
So the free sessions have really gotten that station a lot of very heavy usage, but now that pilot program is coming to an end, we do need to consider how we maintain the city's, keep that within the city's energy budget for the station for the next couple of fiscal years. So we are proposing a September 1st, or will be adding a price per kilowatt hour September 1st, and I don't know that we have a exact number yet.
But it will still be partially subsidized. We've
Yeah.
budgeted for some energy costs.
So that means people would pay when they plug in?
Yes. Yes. And the way it works currently is you do have to have a ChargePoint account to use the station, and that account has to have money in it. If you are there for more than 45 minutes, even during this free pilot program, you would have been charged a rate of $5 per hour after 45 minutes. That was really meant to encourage turnover so people don't plug in and just sit there all day and not allow other people to use it. So we'll be looking at exactly the details of that, but we'll be instituting a fee. And I actually noted, I didn't even get to mention this to Karen, I noted on PlugShare that there are actually users of the station proposing that the station no longer be free because some people are
Taking advantage.
not so much taking advantage, but there were some complaints about people staying till they get to 100%, and that last few percentage takes a while, the way batteries work. So I'm here in my vehicle, I need 10 minutes so I can get home, and this guy is sitting here till he gets to 100%. And if there were a fee, perhaps people wouldn't do that. So that's actually something that's been
Good.
publicly mentioned out there. I think the fee that we will likely be instituting will still be very enticing for people to continue to bring that strong usage. So,
Excellent.
but bottom line is really great usage so far. Next one, and then we already covered this pretty extensively. So I did want to. There's the link that Glenn was mentioning for those events. I've been perusing it. There are, I don't know if there are thousands, but there are certainly hundreds. There are a lot of really great ones. I've flagged several that I hope to attend, a couple others that I'm recommending to other staff. I've noted some on textiles that Barbara may be interested in, and biodiversity, and geared towards educators. So I may be sending out a couple links to a few of you on things that I think you in particular may be interested, but I would just recommend, if you're interested in going to some of these things, go check out that link, sign up probably as soon as you can for the ones that are open to the public, and let us know if you're going to them, because certainly we'd want to hear what you learned.
And are you're attending also, or no? Is that?
So the actual summit itself is invitation only for very high level people and not generally small city staff. Unfortunately, I would love to.
Yeah.
But I have flagged probably an event a day, and we'll see if I can get to actually go to all of those and keep my day job going. But there are a lot of really good ones,
Cool.
and I'm hoping to make it to at least a couple of them.
I'm out of town that whole week, so unfortunately I can't.
And the March you will not find on that page because it's not technically an affiliated event. So you can find it on Facebook and probably any other social media as well. And there's the link for that. And so that's the Saturday before.
Okay.
Just one other thing about that. If you look at the calendar and kind of go shopping for events, be sure that you click on the event you're interested in and read the whole thing, because it's not the best website I've ever seen, and sometimes you actually have to hunt for information. Be sure to read right at the very top. A lot of events will say by invitation only. And then some of them you have to, actually most of them require advanced registration, whether you pay or not. And you need to scroll through the whole thing actually to find out. It's
Because they want to have an idea of how many people are coming.
Yeah, they do, but it's just, my point is, read the
Fine print.
when you click on something, read everything carefully, because if you don't, you may get caught up short.
Yeah.
Or like me, get really excited about a cool sounding event and then find out that it's by invitation only and sold out. So
Yes.
tough luck.
Yeah, precisely.
There's going to be a lot of that.
I do think there is a way that you can filter for public only events. So definitely
I tried.
for that. Didn't work.
They should be able
Anyway,
to do that.
lots of cool stuff going on. It's going to be an exciting month in San Francisco.
Cool.
Just two quick staff updates from me. Acres vegetation management is going to start likely in September. So we just approved the plan a couple months ago. They need to get permits from the HCP, and that'll happen. We also, on the Firth Canyon Trail, Bob and I met with the property owners, which the trail goes over to private properties, and they seemed amenable to a license agreement to allow access that is currently used to the trail.
Anyway.
Great.
So we're moving forward.
Karen, Bob and I both attended the quarterly San Bruno Mountain, I forget what we call it, coordination meeting. And Ramona didn't seem to be really, apparently she's not getting a copy of our work plan, and then not getting a report of the work that was done. So are we really communicating that with them the way
Well,
we should be?
Yeah, each year we apply for a permit. Actually, On Point or Shelter Belt applies for a permit. So at the time of the meeting, they may not have submitted it yet.
She indicated that they hadn't that she hadn't seen it. Wasn't it your interpretation, Bob?
Yeah, since I was at that meeting, I talked to Ramona and Hannah, and I'll be making sure that everyone's on the same page.
Okay, so
I mean,
they
we
haven't.
saw their application from prior years because we asked for a copy of it for the ones that you were doing.
Right, but to Michelle's point, after that meeting, I'll make sure that everyone's in the loop. And Ramona did acknowledge that they have been doing site permits, the site activity permits. So
So was she asking for something?
Then why did she sound like she had no idea what we were doing?
I don't know, because she did say even that conversation, they do a site activity permit, but maybe since we weren't consulting her, I'm not sure. But now I was there, so I'll make sure that since I go to those meetings and have more involved in this, I don't think it'll be an issue moving forward.
Okay, I want to make sure that they're really aware of our work plan and that we're working in concert with the work that the HCP is doing.
And Michelle's bringing that up because Ramona had highlighted some areas within the Brisbane Acres that they thought would be ideal sites for working on. So
I don't know if they were talking about replanting anything like natives or host plants, but mostly what we do in vegetation management is removing invasives. So.
Right, and it was removing invasives that we were talking about, not planting, right?
yeah, Hannah hasn't given me the files that she shared, but as soon as she does, I should have them before the meeting coming up. So I'll make sure that we're
Okay.
sharing all that.
I just want to make sure that we're really working in concert with them for a comprehensive, cohesive plan, management plan.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought we were, and I was really taken aback when she said that, so. But Bob's on the case, so it'll be fine.
Slide.
Next meeting. I will not be here. I have to work.
I won't be here either.
Oops. I hope you'll be here.
I plan to be here.
Okay, good.
I'm here.
Okay. Is everybody else going to be here?
Should be, yeah.
Okay.
Good. Excellent. All right. We have a motion to let us adjourn.
I so
Motion
move.
to adjourn.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes. Yay. I figured nobody would say no. Thank you, everybody.
Ooh.